Okay, so this is going to be a recording of chapter 6, which is e-commerce marketing and advertising concepts. Once again, from the books edition 13, our textbook by Laudon, e-commerce business, technology and society, or as some like to call it, the 2017 edition. Now, the chapter actually starts with discussing the consumers' online, different statistics and patterns of behavior. And in order to make it more relevant for our country, I'm going to look at 2 or 3 different studies that were done for Pakistan in order to study our consumer behavior. Now, one of the first ones that I will also be linking in a description is the study done by Google. And this was done at the end of 2013 and was released in 2014, the information about this particular study. It was done in collaboration with IDC, which is the International Data Corporation, which is a very famous and very well-reputed name. However, this particular study tends to be a little problematic in the sense that it only has a sample of 1,000 consumers, and that too from 7 different cities of the country, not all the cities, and it tends to be more focused on the 3 to 4 major cities instead of the secondary and tertiary cities. However, the results are still relevant for our particular discussion. So I'll jump into the survey demographics and I will talk about those. And of course, the split for the online demographics is starting at slide number 7 of these slides. Now, it says that over 93% own a PC at home, 45% own a smartphone or tablet. Remember, these are old statistics. This is 2013 November statistics. And 12% have mobile as their primary device. Now, this is a good number, but still people are more using the PCs and home computers, while cell phones are not their primary devices. Moving on, 90% of them use their PCs to access the internet daily, while about 73% use feature phones, 77% use smartphones, and only 66% use tablets. And this number for the tablets is dropping because the world over tablet market is dropping. Anyways, social networking and email and search are the 3 most frequently used activities. 56% for social networking, 52% for email, and 47% for general search. While streaming television shows and streaming various TV shows and YouTube-like places is about 35%. Okay. Spending more time online is what people are doing. How are they doing it? On any typical day, most people use the internet about 69% of the time, okay, and about they like to spend most of their time doing, which is using the internet, as opposed to watching TV, which is about 42%. So on any typical day, that's about 69 to 59%, somewhere in between that. While watching TV is about 40 to 25%. In my opinion, these statistics would have shifted now, and watching TV has now started to actually happen online using the internet, legal as well as illegal sources. On an average, during weekdays, people spend about 2.5 hours or about and 1/4 of an hour on the internet, while they spend about 3 hours on the weekends. I think this number is probably going to be a little higher now, as opposed for television, that's about 1 hour 30 minutes, 1 hour 45 minutes on weekdays, and on weekends it's about 2.5 hours. Now, most people do their research online before they actually buy something. That's what Google says. Google calls this the zero moment of truth, which is a step before the shopping, which is for information gathering. While the first moment of truth is referred to when you actually do the actual purchase, or you're standing in front of the shelf or on the website, you're about to buy it. Okay, so online research is an extremely important part of the digital consumer in Pakistan. 48% of people actually do their initial stimulation related research on the internet, as opposed to 45% on television. And while gathering more information happens a lot more online, which is about 64%, and comparison and evaluation happens about 67%, as opposed to other sources, and buying decision in itself also happens online, 57%, which is again some very high numbers and shows the inclination towards using the internet for these purposes. Now, the zero moment of truth, when we look at how people are using the internet to actually do all of this work, they tend to use computers a lot. About 84% of the time, they're doing their first initial research online. So, moving on, about 76% of the time, these ZMOT or zero moment of truth researches, which is pre-purchase researches, happen through mobile phones. So notice the numbers: 84% on computers and tablets, and 76% on mobiles and phones. Now, a lot of people are going to say that is more than 100%. That's because there's a lot of overlap happening in these statistics. moving on. So now we can talk about the willingness to buy online. So products recently bought online, according to this statistics, insurances, travel plans, movie event tickets, mobile phones and plans itself, luxury goods. I think this number is probably going to be shifted more toward electronic goods and clothing. And now, after like 5 years since this research was done, about 38% of the time people shop and at least once a year, and 18% of the people said that they shop at least once a month online. The average spending of a shopper, a Pakistani shopper online, is about 22,900 per year. Again, this number is a little skewed because the kind of people that they surveyed were people with high purchasing power. So products that they usually consider buying in the future relate to computers and tablets and phones and portable electronics, beauty, and even apparel or clothing, as we like to call it. Now, they get influenced by ads quite a lot of time. 52% of the people actually said that they recall the ads that they saw online for the products that they researched online. So 2 in every 3 digital consumers said that they do further research after seeing those ads. 16% said that they read about it offline. 52% said that they continue their researches about those particular products online, while 32% said that action was taken after seeing an online ad. So the 32% actually got converted into real customers after seeing an ad. Online ads actually stimulate a lot more research. 50% said they used a search engine to do the research. 48% said they went to the website of the brand itself. 52% said that they clicked on the ads online, and 38% said that they actually went through several user reviews and different review websites to look at how interesting they found the product and how good the product might possibly be. So, reaching the digital customer. Now that we understand all of this, it becomes a lot more sensible for us when we're looking at this chapter to understand why this is so important to actually go through the entire digital, scenario of the world and how these online ads are actually changing the way that consumers think. I'm going to look at another study, and this one is called Pakistan 2013 Overview of the Online, Mobile and Social. This is by Simtella, and it's on answer.io. I'm going to link it in the description as well. So there are about 31 million internet users according to this number. This study, by the way, is also during 2013. This is the mid of 2013, but I'm going to go through it much more quickly. So it's about 31 million people use the internet today in Pakistan. 15 million of them browse the web through their mobile phones. So the total population is about 190 million, and that's around 31 million of those are internet users. Around 125 of them are actually mobile subscribers, not necessarily smartphone users, but mobile subscribers. So 70% of the population is under the ages of 30, which means it becomes a lot more important for us to start focusing on throwing ads at them. So despite a lot of financial challenges, people are connecting more and more. So this is happening in Pakistan. This is why I keep saying Pakistan is a very paradoxical country, a country where people die of thirst and hunger while we also have 4G. Very odd, but that's how it is. So 125 million mobile subscribers and a million are being added every month. These are again 2013 statistics. Broadband users are doubling in every 2 years, and mobile internet users are increasing quite rapidly. So when we compare the smartphone penetrations, we have about 32 million people. So that's around 10% of penetration. While 75% of people still use feature phones, which are those Symbian based ones, or any other operating system other than the usual smartphones such as the Windows based ones or Androids or iOSs. So 80% of the phones cost less than $100, which is about less than 10,000 rupees back in the day. So 11% internet users are from mobile phones, and that's quite a big number. 80% of the internet users spend more than an hour online every day. I already talked about this from Google's perspective of the similar study. But the average session time, however, is a lot shorter. That may be because people like to use it through their phones and then they use it in bursts, mostly social networking. Social media users are quite a bit. So Pakistan falls somewhere around the mid users of, so to speak, and quite a lot of usage. About 4% in Laos and Bangladesh and Myanmar. So those are lower. While Pakistan's social media, media penetration is still a long way to go according to this study. But now, of course, it's a lot higher. I remember reading somewhere, and I'll probably put the link of that as well, is around 25 million users on Facebook of Pakistan alone. So this particular statistic is a little old, so I'm going to switch to another one which is relatively new. This is called Digital in 2017 in a global overview, and this has been done by several companies, more specifically Hootsuite and VR Social. So according to them, the new statistics, and these are for 2017, the total population of Pakistan is about 194.8 million, and about 40% of us live in the urban zone. 35.1 million people are internet users in Pakistan, so that's about 18% internet penetration. Internet penetration is calculated by dividing the number of internet users with the total population. So active social media users is about 31 million, which is a 16% penetration rate as opposed to 4% back in 2013. Mobile subscriptions have reached up to 140 million, and of those, social mobile users, or rather people who use smartphones to access the social media, is around 28 million. So that's a very good number. That's about 14%. So keeping these numbers in view, it helps us understand that this particular chapter is not just going to be a waste of time. It is extremely important for us to know. So I'm skipping all the part about the US demographics because that's exactly what I was discussing with relation to Pakistan. I'll switch straight to the consumer behavior models online. Now, consumer behavior, of course, we've already studied a whole course about it. A lot of people, all of you have, is basically a science, a study that discusses and tries to understand how consumers think, how they behave in a particular scenario. So if you go to figure 6.1 in the same chapter, it actually gives you a general idea of how the consumer behavior can be modeled. Now, this is a very similar model to what is usually studied in offline behavior. Usually, and they're going to talk about this particular diagram with respect to the online purchasing behavior, which is very similar to what we've already studied several times in principles of marketing and other marketing and advertising courses. Okay, so let's look at this figure 6.1. Now, this talks about the general model of consumer behavior, and there are three basic sets of variables that it talks about. It talks about the independent variables, which are the demographic variables, which is the cultural, social, and psychological stimuli which actually affect any consumer. While there's intervening variables, which are also referred to as mediating variables, through which it actually affects a dependent variable, and these are the brand, the marketing, communication stimuli, which is basically all the advertising, promotions, and marketing gimmicks that these companies run, and then the firm's capabilities themselves. All of these independent variables, through these mediating variables, affect the in-store behavior of consumers, which eventually leads to their buyer behavior. Now, when we talk about the online purchase behavior, the online purchasing decision, most people are basing their decision and their percentages based on the fact that, and this is table 6.2, or because of lower prices. So why consumers choose the online option is because of lower prices. Notice that this is different from how it is in our country. For us, it's probably convenience. But in many cases, it is also because of the lower prices. Shopping from home is 53%, and shopping 24/7 is 44%. So we already know all of this. These are again statistics for the US market, not for us, but this gives us some idea. Now let's look at the online consumer decision process. This figure 6.2. The online process, however, again is very similar to what the Google's document was talking about in the 0 moment of truth. This is awareness and need recognition, which is first step. This leads to search, which is the 0 moment of truth. Then we end up evaluating our alternatives, which then results in the purchase and then the post-purchase behavior. Notice that these are the same 3 or 4 steps that are talked about in case bundle number 2, according to the Google's proposed scheme for keywords for their AdWords. This is the exact same model that we've been studying all our lives about how our consumers make decisions. So on online marketing, the communications could be the ads that you see online, the video ads, the display ads, the search ads, search engines themselves, the websites, the online catalog, social marketing, social networking, a lot of viral media, all of this, along with the promotions, discount, flash sales, all of this, consumers, electronic word of mouth, what people say online, user reviews, all of these have an influence on us. On the physical side, when we talk about offline marketing communications, this is all again print media and the television, the mass media, promotions and physical pamphlet stuff, print ads, all the things that people say to us physically, our physical social networks, all of these are offline marketing communications. Now, moving to figure 6.3, this is a model of how online consumers behave. Now, compare this to what was shown in figure 6.1. The only difference that you will notice is that the intervening variables, the mediating variables, now have a whole set of new stuff. So there are independent variables that are again culture, the social norms, the psychological factors of the consumer, and the background demographic factors that influence them. But the dotted square rectangle here shows you this set of new intervening variables or mediating variables, which are the brand itself, how powerful the brand is, how loyal the consumer is to that very particular brand, the marketing communication stimuli that particular company actually puts and throws at us, and the firm's capabilities, how powerful and how well the firm is in order to meet the requirements and the demands of a particular consumer. The website, how well is the website? I mean, often enough, a firm may be very capable, a firm may even have strong brand presence, but the website is lackluster, or maybe the mobile platform or mobile website that they have is lackluster. Then, of course, a huge variable is the consumer's ability to actually browse that website, the ability to absorb all of that information that has to do with consumer skills. Then at the end is the product characteristics itself. If all of these are good, but the product characteristics themselves are somehow not satisfying the consumer, then obviously the behavior changes. This then leads to purchasing attitudes, the perceived behavioral control, and this perceived behavioral control actually has to do with a theory in marketing that is known as the theory of planned behavior, which in itself flows from theory of recent action. Again, this is only for those who are interested in the research and academic areas of it. However, this is based on the theory of planned behavior, where people tend to be influenced by what they see around them, and then there is also how they perceive that they can change their own ability to think and have and their ability to have different attitudes about different products. So the perceived behavioral control that people have on what decisions they're making and how much those decisions are originally theirs instead of actually being influenced by other people. Then of course the electronic word of mouth, or what is now referred to as social networks. All of this leads to some kind of behavior online, the way that they move to different websites, the way that they look at different websites, the time they spend on each of the pages, the time they spend on each of the websites themselves, how they move from one website to another, which ads they clicked on, what did they write, what did they comment, how did they actually react to a particular thing, did they share it, did they not share it, did they look at it longer, did they spend more than a few seconds looking at the headline or more than a few minutes reading an article, watching a video, how long did they watch it, what was the ratio of the number of times that video popped up into their search results and the number of times they actually ended up watching it. All of this is referred to as the click stream behavior or online behavior of consumers, which in turn then leads to the actual possible purchase. All of this is referred to as the model of online consumer behavior. So this click stream analysis or click stream behavior analysis is essentially what a lot of organizations deal with. This is where they try and understand how a particular consumer behaves or is behaving potentially online in order to learn. This is exactly what Google search does. This is exactly what Amazon is trying to do. This is exactly what Facebook was designed to do. This is the information that these various companies collect about us and help advertisers target us using these clickstream behaviors or clickstream analysis of these online consumers and online users. Now, then it talks about how shoppers can be divided into two kinds, the browsers and the buyers. So browsers are basically people who are doing window shopping. Now figure 6.4 says people actually go online and they shop online but did not actually buy, which means that they browsed online, they looked at stuff but did not actually buy. They did a lot of window shopping. And there are people who did not shop or even buy online, which are not doing either. And then 77% of them are online buyers. For us, I always like to say that this statistic is exactly reverse. More people actually do online browsing or window shopping as opposed to actually buying online, and then they do in the US. However, this is slowly and gradually changing. So what consumers usually buy and actually look around online is already been discussed for Pakistan. So I will skip this part in this chapter, which is again about the US. So a lot of people do not buy online. This is because people are either afraid that they will be defrauded, and we've already talked a lot about that in our classes, or the fact that their privacy and security is not really guaranteed. Anyways, moving to 6.2, this talks about digital commerce marketing and advertising strategies and tools. So there are a lot of strategic issues which are discussed more specifically in table 6.3, because it talks about different material and different methodologies through which all of this is reached to us. So there are, of course, the type of there are 4 columns in this, which is the types of marketing, the platforms, the examples of each one of them, and the function of each. So let's look at the first one, which is websites. Now websites are traditional websites, obviously, and the purpose is, of course, to be an anchor site, to be a representation of the brand, to be a representation of the product, to give awareness about the product or the brand. The second type of marketing is traditional online marketing, or basically the search engine marketing, which is the most commonly used way to target people, because this is exactly where people are going to be looking for you. This is the zero moment of truth event, where people are actually aware of their problems or are trying to search about what can solve their problems. Of course, Google, Bing, Yahoo, Yandex, Baidu, all the search engines that are dealing with search engine marketing fall in this category. This also includes display advertising, which in Google's case is the display network, which is all other websites where these ads are placed. Again, this is based on the interest and based on the interest of the user. Whatever they enjoy, whatever they like, they end up reading those kind of things on different other websites. That's why the ads that they end up seeing are related related to what they usually like to see. This is why a person who's into a lot of science fiction or fantasy will see those kind of ads, whether they be about books or TV shows or whatever. That's what you'll see. This is why you see a Daraspike ad on a website that is unrelated to it, but because you were interested in that product. So another way that these display advertisings work is context-based marketing or advertising, where the article that you're reading, the video that you're watching is somehow related to the ad that you're actually seeing. So this is based on the context. So these are two different things. Interest-based is based on the user's interest, which is again calculated and found out and gauged through the clickstream behavior, while context-based advertising is based on the kind of keywords that page actually is keeping in its meta tag and it's about, and the ad is usually connected to it. So if you're reading an article about travel and about tourism, you will end up seeing ads about luggage. If you're reading an article about, say, new kinds of movies or TV shows, you're going to end up seeing ads which are related to upcoming films and TV shows. Same goes for books or any other product that or service you can think of. Similarly, there is of course other traditional online marketing methodologies such as emails and affiliate marketing. Now, emails is of course a lot of companies like to send you direct emails. This is similar, but of course this is with consent. You actually get subscribed. So this is permission-based marketing. Another area is affiliations, where you actually end up showing other companies' products or other products and get some payment because you're promoting their products. Amazon does that through their various sellers who are actually marketing through Amazon's platform. Then of course is the area of social marketing, which is through social networks. Of course, Facebook comes on the top, and it basically works by calculating your edge rank related to each topic. We've already discussed this in detail in the advertising related stuff about Facebook in its own case bundle, as well as in its case study, which is in a separate audio recording, and will be also covered in chapter number 7, which I will also put up the audio recording for. Now, other websites such as microblogging sites such as Twitter and Tumblr, which are forums and places, also work in the same way, that there's a lot of electronic word of mouth and viral marketing related to it. Then comes mobile marketing, which is again covered through mobile sites, which is basically a mobile version of the websites, and of course also through apps. A lot of organizations, a lot of products, and a lot of brands are trying to make apps these days in order to engage their customers even further. Whether or not that app is even related or even actually helps a customer doesn't even matter. Oftentimes these apps are created and meant for a single purpose, which is for brand awareness and for customer engagement. And of course, a lot of these apps are quite useful. For instance, think of Daraz's app or even Karim and Uber's app. Both of them are designed to actually allow people better usage of those respective services. However, in many cases, you will find a lot of mobile marketing apps actually being created for nothing more than just involving a customer. Then there's of course offline marketing, which is something that is slowly and gradually being phased out, especially because our newer consumers, our generation, is focusing more and more towards the online usage. However, offline marketing is of course through television, through newspapers and magazines, through various TV programs, through ads and newspapers, and of course through magazines as well. Same could be said about radio, which is not actually as dead as people like to think, and is also very useful for offline marketing. Now, the website again creates a better customer experience. Each one of these has its own place. The website is helpful for creating a customer experience and overall feeling about the product, a lot of more information about the product and about the brand, while the traditional marketing areas are preferred when you're trying to go a two-pronged approach. So there are the advantages of both of them. The online advertising spend across the globe has been increasing at an extremely rapid rate. The overall global spendage on until 2018 has reached nearly over 115 billion US dollars annually, which is a lot of money. So this is going to keep on increasing over time. The most commonly used ad formats are usually through search engine marketing, and that is over 51.4 billion US dollars until 2020. That's the expected growth rate. Right now in 2000 and these are statistics for 16, this is somewhere in 33.3 billion. So I'm guessing this is probably somewhere in the region of 50 to 40, around 45 billion as of 2018. Banner ads is the close second, which is about half the amount. In 2016, which is about 14.4. This is table 6.4, by the way, in case you're wondering. Then video comes in a close third. So notice that search engine marketing is still the primary way. That is because this is the zero moment of truth. When you are aware of a problem, when you're looking for a product, that's where you go to. You go to the Google search engine or any other search engine. That's where the ads are most popular and most strongly going to be targeted to you. So ad targeting is again a process that is involved in this, and we will be talking about it briefly. So search engine marketing and advertising, how exactly does it work? Now, I've already mentioned this multiple times in other audio recordings. I'm going to iterate all of this. Search engine marketing is the field that deals with showing of ads above the organic search results. The organic search results are unpaid, and they are controllable by advertisers. Whenever you make a Google search, you get search results. Above these search results, specifically named and actually labeled, you will see ads, if there is a possible ad that qualifies. Not always. Microsoft does this through their Bing search engine, Yahoo does this, Baidu does this, Yandex does this, and of course Google search does this. This is referred to as search engine marketing. The ads on the top are ranked based on the quality score and the bid together, which combines to form the ad rank, while page rank deals with the actual organic results. So search engine ads, as I said, are related to ad rank, while search engine results, the organic results, are evaluated and are related to the page rank. Now, search engine advertising basically works in a very simple way. A lot of companies, a lot of advertisers, there could be organizations, business owners, service providers, reach or approach a search engine, and then they decide to actually pay for a particular ad, or show their willingness to pay for a particular ad based on what a user will search for. Let's take the example of Google search in order to understand this. On Google search, basically advertisers approach Google through the AdWords platform. What is the AdWords platform? AdWords is a platform or a service provided by Google where advertisers can go to Google search and bid for different keywords. By bidding, it means they're willing to pay every time somebody clicks on an ad that will get shown when that ad's keywords match the keywords of the user's search. Of course, there'll be several advertisers advertising and bidding and competing to get their ads on top. And obviously, only the ads that qualify, that win a particular auction, will end up on the top or the second or the third. Google search results are after this, which are unpaid for, and then there are several ads that are now have started to show even at the end of the page using the same method. So understand that these particular ads that end up get shown are the ones that you can pay Google for. However, the search results cannot be paid for, and as I said, those are called the organic search results, so they cannot be paid for in that way. Paid inclusion or payments are only done for the ads on the top. Now, oftentimes people ask, why would somebody want to actually show their ads when you are already getting your results on the top? That's because in order to help people be reminded. Plus, it's been done, it's been researched and it's been found that people do not look at what they're clicking on. They often click on the ads on the top as opposed to the organic results, which are right below it. So it only helps to reinforce and increase the probability of a user ending up clicking your website, even if it is the ad on the top right above your organic results of the same website. Now, the search ads that actually end up being shown are referred to as pay-per-click search ads, or CPC search ads, which is cost per click search ads, or even keyword advertising. So as I said, advertising on the search engine works through this particular platform, which is AdWords. So a lot of these organizations and advertisers therefore bid for it and end up getting their ads shown on the top. Now, there is another kind of set of ads that are shown on different websites, and we'll talk about that later, which is related to another one of Google's products and platforms, that's Google AdSense, and we'll talk about it in a while. Search engine optimization, as opposed to search engine marketing, is the field that deals with making your website be ranked higher on the search results. Okay, this is done generally through two different methodologies. One is the legal ones, which are called white hat SEO, and SEO stands for search engine optimization, or optimizing your web page in order to be ranked higher on the organic search results, not the paid ones, the organic search results. And then there are illegal techniques which are called black hat SEO techniques, which are some techniques or underhanded methodologies and strategies that Google does not approve of, and none of the search engines approve of, that people tend to use for their websites. Now, Google keeps on improving its ability to gauge and evaluate different websites, and there have been several incidents where Google has made changes which they name differently. They usually name it after different animals. For instance, they had one called Panda, which was a set of new algorithms introduced into PageRank that would remove low quality websites from search results. There was another one called Penguin, which was another set of algorithms that Google created in order to remove websites that had low quality backlinks, or in other words, websites that were being referred by lower quality websites. So they removed them. They keep on introducing these factors. What is important here to know is that another one is called Hummingbird, which is related to the more meaning related searches. In other words, it tries to find meaning with what you're trying to search for and how it connects to the website that are being shown in the results. Now, the important part that needs to be known here is that these websites that are actually shown in the organic results are ranked by PageRank. PageRank is not something that can be manipulated, because people do attempt to try and manipulate it. It cannot really be manipulated because no way will you be able to find what those 200 factors are. Google does not actually publish a list of all of those 200 factors that compose the page rank. Neither does Google reveal the weightage given to each of those factors. This is because Google believes that if it reveals those factors, all websites will only focus on those specific factors instead of actually focusing on all of the factors, thinking that each one of them is equally important. Similarly, Google also believes that if it reveals the weightage of each of these factors, the companies will end up focusing only on those instead of the others. This is why, in order to continue to push and encourage websites to be their absolute best, Google does not reveal what those 200 plus page ranking metrics or factors are. Neither does it actually explain which of those has the higher weightages. So Google's entire index, or basically the list of all of the websites that it has already crawled through web crawlers, and I've already discussed all of this while we were talking about how search engines work in chapter 3's audio recording, plus it's also in your case bundle 2. How exactly a search engine works. So it keeps all of that record into what is referred to as Google's knowledge graph or Google's index, where it keeps a record of every single website and how it connects to each other and how which keywords those web pages match with. So this is how it works. Social search or social contact search or social graph search is basically the search that is related to more relevant searches with respect to how they relate to you. Oftentimes when you make a Google search, it will also use your contacts details, especially if you're signed in, to help you find better results. This is especially true for Facebook, where Facebook uses the graph search of a lot of people connected and the people connected to you in order to help you find better search results. There are a lot of issues with search engines that I already mentioned. There are a lot of underhanded tactics that a lot of companies actually have been trying to use in order to manipulate the search engine optimization rankings. One methodology, and these are the black hat SEO techniques that I was talking about. One methodology is to use link farms, which is that a lot of websites come together and they start linking to each other in order to increase the backlinks or outbound and inbound links. What are outbound and inbound links? Every website links to other websites, while every website links to further more websites. The number of websites that are linked to your website and the number of websites you end up linking to is also a criterion page rank. This was inspired from how search engines, how research papers are ranked. A research paper that is cited by several or referenced by other research papers is considered better, and a research paper that has more references to other papers is considered better. This is what inspired Larry Page, the creator of PageRank, which is short for Web Page Ranking System, to create his own. So link farms were a way to manipulate this in an illegal and incorrect way in order to get higher ranked. Google, however, found out, and it has been trying to filter out such kind of pages which are basically using the old idiom of you scratch my back, I scratch your back. So they link to other websites even if those websites are not related to each other. Similar concept to this and related to it is content farms. These are companies that actually create a lot of content which is not even related to what their websites are. By content, I mean the text written there and the stuff written there, and they fill them up and basically every time you make a search, their website comes up there. Oftentimes they actually even steal other websites' content and their text and their pictures and and videos in order to improve more visits to their websites, and they summarize it in order to get away from the plagiarism issues. So this is again an incorrect use of it. Other methodologies which are not mentioned in the book, but I will be emailing you the link for it, are hidden text, where a website actually writes the text that is visible to the user in a different font color, while the text that the keyword crawlers, the spiders will end up reading, is in the background color. So when you open up a website, it may not even appear to you as if there's any other keywords written there or any stuff written there which is unrelated. However, what happens is when a search engine actually crawls it, it ends up finding a lot of keywords, and those keywords are usually of things that are being talked about these days. So imagine you actually make a search about some recent news, and you end up seeing a website in your search result. When you click it, you realize that website is about cars, and this was the case with BMW. They did something similar like that, and then Google actually gave them a warning, and then told them that if they did not remove this illegal technique of using hidden text, they will be removed from Google search permanently. And of course they responded very quickly and they removed this. However, this hidden text is a technique that's often used. Keyword stuffing is another one, where a website's keywords are filled up with unrelated and unnecessary user queries, so as to help their website be coming up on the top of the search results, because every time somebody makes a search, this will show up. So all of the usually trending stuff is used as keywords and stuffed into those websites. You will find a lot of various techniques of black hat SEO that people tend to use. So one of the reasons that it's so popular to talk about SEO is because a lot of these companies, advertising agencies, end up using illegal and unethical techniques, which are black hat SEO. The white hat SEO techniques are pretty simple. Keep your website as fresh as possible with new content, with new media. Make sure that it runs on all the browsers. Make sure that it runs on mobile sites. Make sure that it does not require you to install several plugins or softwares just to actually view the website. Make sure that it actually loads up very quickly. It doesn't have unnecessary or illegal content. It doesn't have something unethical according to the standards and policies of Google. That's it. You just pay attention to those things and you are pretty good with white hat SEO. Another technique that often is used with relation to search engine, only this is for search engine marketing, is click fraud. And I'll come back to it when we talk about the 3 costing methods of online ads. However, click fraud is when an advertiser will actually be forced to pay because somebody is clicking on their ads who is not actually a possible customer. In other words, in order to earn more money, a particular website may hire people or use different softwares to automatically or even unnecessarily click on an ad in order to generate more money. Now we'll talk about this click fraud when we discuss the CPC methodology of costing for ads. Now display ad marketing, when we talk about display ad marketing, as I was talking about search engine marketing, Google has 2 networks, 2 different areas where it shows ads. One is called the search network, the other is called the display network. The search network contains all those places where Google search is involved. More specifically, Google search engine, Google Maps search, Google Play Store search, which is the Android store, YouTube search, all of the places where you can make a search using Google's technologies will potentially have a possible ads on above the organic results of those places. This is this Google search network. While the other network that Google has where ads can possibly run is the Google display network, which includes all websites that are owned by Google themselves. For instance, YouTube, for instance, blogger.com, which is also called Blogspot. All of these places are Google's display network. Plus, it includes Google's display partners. Google display partners are basically those websites that end up going to Google and registering themselves and saying that we would be willing to show ads on our website. So these organizations, these website owners, these websites, such as any websites really, I mean CNN.com, BBC.com, Daraj.pk, various tech blogs, various news websites, all of them approach Google through a specific platform. That platform is called AdSense. They go and they register themselves with Google and say, we are willing to show ads on our websites because our websites have a lot of empty space where, and a lot of people visit us. So why not show ads? So through AdSense, they get registered with Google and become Google's partners. Now, those websites that are automatically part of Google, such as blogger.com and YouTube itself, in those cases, you don't actually create, you don't go and allow it. You just go and register and basically tell Google that you're willing to show ads on your particular YouTube channel or on your blog. Now, Basically, this is how advertising works. So there are three different groups or three different platforms in play here. There's AdSense, where people actually go and register their websites, and these then become Google partners, whether they be search partners or whether they be display partners. And to remind you again, search and display are two of Google's networks. The other side has basically AdWords, which is where advertisers go and bid for different ads that then end up showing either on the search network, that could be Google search results, or on the display network, which is on other partner sites or websites owned by Google. This is how it works. So it's a three group thing. The AdSense on one side, where publishers, or rather websites or website owners, as we like to call them, actually register themselves. AdWords, where advertisers go and tell Google that they want to show an ad, and Google itself and its various two networks, which is the search and the display network, where the ads end up being shown. Now, one of the most common display ads is, of course, the banner ads. Banner ads are, of course, these large and different sized banners. Now, there are several types of banners, but the ones that are most common and accepted throughout the industry are the ones that are sanctioned and allowed by the Internet Advertising Bureau. And there are several sizes that are mentioned in figure 6.6. You don't need to memorize them, just need to know them. Then there are rich media ads, which are basically graphically interactive ones, with pictures and videos, sometimes even using HTML5 or Flash or Java or JavaScript. All of these are rich media ads, which may have sound as well. Then there are interstitial ads. Interstitial ads are ads that actually end up on the entire page once you're moving from one website to another. So they are like interstitial here actually means in between. So they are like the banner ads, only they are detailed ads that happen once the website is loading up. However, remember that pop-up ads and pop-under ads. Pop-up ads are those irritating small ones, and pop-under are the ones smaller ones that actually end up behind your videos, are behind your various web pages, are not allowed by the IAB, and Google does not support them either. Table 6.5 actually shows different types of video ads. So there are lots of video ads, even in the case of YouTube. It could be an ad that comes before the video, it could be an ad that comes in between the video being played on YouTube, or even display ads that are shown on the video in form of banners. You get overlays. These are called overlay text ads and overlay ads. So the ads that actually end up played in the beginning of a YouTube video could be skippable, or they could be unskippable. There are ones that can be skipped within 30 seconds. Or there are ads which cannot be skipped. There are some really small ads called bumper ads, which are basically 6-second long ads. This is in the case of YouTube. So understand there are several kinds of video ads. There are also kinds of video ads that get expanded and are shown on the main page of YouTube. These are called masthead ads. They're not bid for. These ads actually end up being shown once you actually have prepay Google and you get registered with them, and you tell them that you in other words, you basically book that particular ad. That masthead ad is one of the most expensive ads right now. So then there are other kinds of advertisements which are like, for instance, sponsorship. Sponsorship is a scenario where you actually end up showing an article or putting up content on your website that is actually an advertisement, but it is written in a manner so as to sponsor it, so as to promote a particular brand or a product specifically. Native advertising is basically that looks more, that's similar to sponsorship in the sense that it's like an article written like a news article or any other article, but actually it's an advertisement. So it's an editorial content like thing where somebody could be talking about an opinion about some product or some such, but it's actually an advertisement. So they're promoting a particular product or a particular service. Content marketing is when native advertising is usually involved in it, and where they actually write entire case studies or make graphic art or infographics or charts and stuff and promote it as content itself. So that's another way of doing things. And then, of course, there are these advertising networks. For instance, another one of Google's advertising network is DoubleClick, and they actually show how it works in figure 6.7. It's a very simple concept. Every time a consumer goes to different websites, every time you visit different places on the internet, your clickstream behavior is stored as cookies on your computer, on your browser. And oftentimes you'll notice websites asking you for permission to store cookies. Cookies are basically temporary storage information that is stored on your computer. It is not your personal identifier information. It's just information about what websites you've been visiting, what kind of things interest you, what pages you spend some time on. That helps websites understand what kind of user profile or consumer profile you have, what kind of mindset you have. So every time you visit a website that gives you its services or products for free, that website requests for these cookies that are stored on your computer. These cookies are then taken and compared with the possible targeting that different advertisers have put up. So throughout that entire list of possible advertisers who want to show their ad to a particular kind of a consumer, if your cookies, and in other words your user profile, matches their possible target, you end up being shown a particular ad which is then shown on that merchant's website, on that particular website. So that's exactly what it says. In step 1, the consumer requests a web page and automatically the merchant server connects with the DoubleClick server. DoubleClick is actually not a process, it is the name of an advertisement network that is owned by Google. It's a single word. DoubleClick does not mean the action on a mouse. Here DoubleClick is a proper noun. So DoubleClick then actually compares your cookie information and tries to find a potential advertiser who wants to show an ad to your kind of person, and then they end up suggesting a particular ad that gets shown on your page when you're viewing that particular page. That's how advertising networks actually work. So then it talks about ad exchanges. Now, ad exchanges or programmatic advertising or real-time bidding. This is what I was talking about just a while ago when I was discussing about AdWords, where you actually are an advertiser and you actually go to Google AdWords and say, I want that every time somebody searches particular keywords, and these are the keywords that you'll be bidding for. Whenever somebody searches for these keywords, I want my ad to be shown on the top. Those particular keywords are then bid for by you. In other words, you are willing to pay a certain amount. This willing to pay a certain amount is referred to as max CPC or max cost per click. In other words, when your ad will get shown, you will be willing to pay a certain amount to Google or whoever the advertising network is. Now, of course, this bidding process is happening in real time. There are 40,000 Google searches being made every second, which means there are potentially 40,000 auctions taking place for every one of those search queries across the globe. So understand that when you make a bid, it is not just the money that decides whether your ad comes up on the top. It's actually an evaluation of your ad based on various factors. These factors are together known as the quality score. Quality score involves the ad relevance, the expected click-through rate, and the landing page experience. I'll explain them each one by one. The ad relevance has to do with how much your keyword relates to the content of your ad and how does that in turn relate to your actual website. So if it is higher, if the keyword that a person is searching for ends up matching your ad's content or your ad's copy, as we call it, then your ad relevance is higher. The second criteria is expected click-through rate. I use the word expected because click-through rate actually means the number of times that your ad was clicked divided by how many times it was actually ended up being shown. Now, the word expected here is being used because it could be that you are running a particular bidding for a particular ad for the very first time. So obviously the click-through rate is 0. But 0 would mean that it was never clicked. That is not the case. Click-through rate cannot be calculated for an ad that is being run for the first time. However, Google says that because your ad probably falls in a category that is similar to other categories that they've run ads for, the click-through rate will be expected based on that average. So let's say you're running an ad for a university. So obviously Google says there are several other universities that are trying to run an ad when the word university is searched for. So we give it an average click-through rate that similar to an ad of another university. Let's say that university ended up showing its ad 100 times, it was clicked about 10 times. So you, being a university, will probably get a similar click-through rate as well. So that's why it's called the expected click-through rate. Later it becomes the historical click-through rate and basically has a number representing the number of times your particular ad was clicked. Pretty simple process. Then the third concept, criteria is the landing page experience. The landing page experience essentially refers to what the user ends up seeing once they click your ad. The page that they end up on your website when they click an ad is called the landing page. The experience that they have there is called the landing page experience, and that's also one of the criteria of the quality score. The landing page experience has to do with how quickly that page loaded up. Does it require extra software to be installed in your browser to show up? Does it actually require you to give special permissions to that page that could be, taking away your personal information? Does it contain all fresh news? Does it actually relate to the actual ad that was shown? Does it actually show stuff that was mentioned in the keywords? So how much of a good landing page experience it is? These three criteria together form the quality score. Multiplying this by the bid that you made ends up being called the ad rank. and the higher the ad rank you have, the higher the chance that your ad will be shown on the top. Remember that between the quality score and the bid, the quality score has more weightage than the bid. So basically, in a situation where two different ads, two different advertisers are trying to show a similar ad for a similar keyword, the ad with the higher quality score as opposed to the one with the higher bid, the ad with the higher quality score will end up on the top. Remember also that these days Google is experimenting in showing its ad not just on the top of the search engine results, but also at the absolute bottom. This is because in order to go to the next page, you will scroll down. So Google believes that people will end up clicking there as well. So this automatic auction-based advertising process that Google came up with was the very reason that Google became the dominant force in paid advertising on search engines. This was the topic of discussion in case bundle number 2. This is how it ended up defeating Overture or GoTo.com, because in Overture's case, it took up to 3 days for an ad after winning a particular bid to be shown on any of their pages, while in Google's case this would happen immediately. So every time you make a Google search, an auction is being done in the background. Remember also that Google has several regional websites. An ad that you're bidding for on google.com does not necessarily mean will also end up showing on google.com.pk. So you can be targeting in specific regions based on specific conditions and demographic requirements of your possible users. Now there are several issues related to advertising on search engines as well as on the display networks that are part of Google. One of them that we talked about earlier about is click fraud or ad fraud, where you basically make a false proof. You actually try and actually show to Google that your ad is being clicked more times than it actually is. Now, click fraud or ad fraud is done by two different groups, could be done by two different groups for different reasons. For instance, a rival company, let's say if I am Pepsi and I'm trying to show my ads on Google searches, and every time somebody searches for cold drinks or beverages, Coca-Cola might be tempted to do what is referred to as click fraud or ad fraud. Because I have a limited budget, for a daily budget or even a limited monthly budget, I will of course be limited by how many times I am willing to pay and show my ad. Okay, and that is, as I called it, that is called the max CPC or the max cost per click that I'm willing to pay. So obviously, if Coke wanted to destroy my budget, my ad budget, they could hire a group of people and would ask them to click on the Coca-Cola, to click on the Pepsi ad every time it gets shown up. Now, they're not potential customers. They're just trying to waste Pepsi's limited budget. This is one kind of click fraud. Another kind of click fraud would be where a website that has now registered itself with Google and is showing ads that are being presented to it through AdWords will try to earn more money. What they will do is, in order to increase their ad revenue from the ads that are shown on their website and that are being clicked by users, they can actually hire people and ask them to click on the ads that are shown on their website. An example would be, let's say if I am a blogger, if I write a blog, I could hire a group of my friends or even people and say that they should be the opening up of my website, opening up my blog, and click on every ad that they see. At the end of the month, I can then ask Google and say, see, look at it. There are several people who ended up on the website and they clicked on my ads, and now I deserve to get the share of those, of the money that the advertiser ended up paying you. Understand that both of these cases are ad fraud or click fraud. In both cases, Google has several algorithms in place where they are able to catch the fact that these are fraudulent clicks. They are doing this by understanding the usual behavior of advertisers as well as of potential users and customers. However, a lot of these ad fraud companies and click fraud people end up using software in order to behave like real consumers and to make those clicks in an infrequent and natural way. So this is a constant going battle between the two companies. Now understand that there is also a concept of a viewability of ads. Understand that when you actually end up showing an ad does not necessarily mean that people will actually even view it. This is referred to as viewability. According to Google, 56% of the ads that they end up showing are not actually even viewed by people. This is because people ignore them. Viewability has to do with the fact that just because you show an ad on a website does not necessarily mean that people actually see them with their eyes, or as we like to call it, I have eyeballed them. There's no guarantee. At least with ads that are being calculated based on clicks, you know that only those who are interested will click on it. We'll come back to this later when we talk about these free costing structures. Moving on, another concept that has become pretty prevalent in the advertising industry is ad blocking. A lot of people get annoyed by online ads. That is because of two reasons. One, because they end up going to websites that are not abiding by the Internet Advertising Bureau's policies, and they end up showing more ads than anyone would like to see. The other reason could be that these websites are giving out or promoting illegal material or even unethical or immoral things, for which they of course will not attract good kind of advertisers. So they end up showing too many ads. This has led to a lot of people using ad blockers on their browsers. Understand that if any website is not charging you money, then they are obviously making their money through advertisements. Any good website will end up showing you a small number of ads, and preferably showing you ads that you're interested in. Any kind of website that overwhelms you with ads is happening only because of two reasons. One, it could be an unethical, illegal, or immoral website, or will be involved with some kind of advertisers, because there are others like Google as well, who's showing you those kind of ads. The other reason could be that maybe your computer is infected by some kind of malware that is actually showing you more ads in order to generate more money. So it has nothing to do with Google. This is a common misconception. This is exactly why applications and softwares like AdBlock and AdBlock Plus have become very popular. In order to combat this, Google has started a new initiative where they say that they will block the ads themselves that are violating their policies, and many websites that you end up visiting to will not show you ads that are annoying. So instead of actually not allowing ad blocker to be run, they said that we have incorporated an ad blocker into the Google Chrome browser itself, and Firefox is doing something similar as well, in order to prevent any kind of such ads to be shown. This does not mean that people have stopped using ad blockers, but it has improved people's experience quite a bit. Remember that pop-up ads, which are those small little annoying ads that show up on the screen while you're clicking on something instead of actually opening a whole website, or even pop-under ads that are small window ads that are showing underneath your various windows and tabs, are both discouraged heavily by Google. Google has recently released a whole set of policies that prohibit usage of any kind of ads that are not acceptable according to the Internet Advertising Bureau's rules. Anyways, moving on. Then there is email marketing. We talked about it. Google, in Google's case, Gmail has a separate section for promotional, email-based marketing. So when you open up your inbox on Gmail, you'll notice that there's a tab called Promotions, which is where all the ad-related, emails end up being. This is exactly why their inbox is usually clean of any kind of spam email. So understand that direct email only happens if you give it permission. Any kind of emails that are sent to you without your interest or without your permissions are unsolicited, and therefore are considered spam and not looked at nicely by any of the advertisers. So those are of course spam emails. Then moving on, we have affiliate marketing, which we talked about, where a website actually ends up showing different products and in return they charge some money every time somebody clicks on that particular product through their website. So one of the best examples is Amazon. Amazon shows a lot of products that it's selling, and several ads of different products that are being sold through its website. So every time you end up clicking on one of those products, the sellers of those products or manufacturers of those products end up paying a small commission fee or referral fee, as we like to call it, to Amazon, because it was because of Amazon that people ended up being on their particular website or ended up buying or potentially buying that particular product. This is one of the ways that eBay also does it. Affiliate marketing or affiliate revenue model was already discussed in chapter number 2, and this is essentially a referral fee model where you get paid because you're referring to another product, and this is becoming pretty common these days. Then we move on to viral marketing. Viral marketing is the process of creating ads or content so interesting and so enticing that you will end up sharing it with your friends and family members. This is very, very common through social networks. This is very common on Facebook and Twitter, and it has become extremely useful in promoting and through those networks, because the speed with which this actually gets shared is a lot faster than any other medium. This of course has to do with the nature of the beast itself, with the nature of how social networks actually work. So viral marketing is essentially the use of social networks and blogging sites and similar websites that are related to social networks, and influencing these special people who are like opinion leaders in their communities to promote this. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, Reddit, all of these places are involved in one form or another into viral marketing. The word of course comes from viruses, the way that they spread from one to another. So viral marketing is another area where electronic word of mouth and electronic promotions of things has become extremely common. Then we have lead generation marketing. Lead generation marketing uses a lot of e-commerce related presences that could be the websites that they have, the various apps that they have, the various social network presence that they have, in order to create the interest that leads to becoming a lead. A lead is basically a customer or a potential customer that has taken more interest in your product than just just going through it. So a lot of software has actually been and platforms have been involved. One of the most famous ones is HubSpot, which is a software suite for generating and managing these leads. Customers that have shown some interest in your particular product. And there are several other CRM platforms, such as the one by Salesforce.com, that also do the same, which is a web-based or a cloud-based tool to do the same thing. Then, of course, we have the social, mobile, and local marketing and advertising platforms, or social marketing and advertising. We already talked about how Facebook does this through its various tools and strategies, and that's already been discussed during the Facebook case study, and I will be covering it when I'll be making the audio recording for chapter 7 as well, and it'll be covered in that. But in short, it is of course done through the various pages that they have and the various platforms that they have, plus the blogs and various other social networks that all of these firms and products and brands actually have. Mobile marketing and advertising has also become very popular. Google uses a separate platform in order to show the apps and in order to help app owners generate money by showing ads within their apps through Google's ad mob. Apple has its own Apple IA ad, and Twitter has its MoPub, while there are several other platforms where you can actually show ads in your mobile apps, as well as bid for ads within different mobile apps. So these are the platforms that are used for it. Local marketing is referred to is a term that the book comes up with. Basically talks about how different ads are focusing more specifically to different regions. Now, in the case of AdWords or in the case of Facebook, this is already done by targeting the ads based on a particular location or a geographic location or even a region. And Facebook uses this, LinkedIn does this, Google does this, Twitter does this, Bing does this. Almost every other online platform does one form or another of local or regional or location-based advertisement and marketing. And these are of course very popular because obviously these are more focused, and again this will be discussed in greater depth in the audio recording for chapter 7. Now, there are also other areas where we talk about multi-channel marketing. Now, multi-channel marketing is just a term used for when you involve all other platforms, or you have an overall brand message or advertising message that is synchronized with what you're showing on different other platforms, be it TV, media, print, as well as radio, as well as online. So when you combine all of that in order to give the same kind of message, that's referred to as omni-channel marketing or multi-channel marketing. There are other marketing strategies that are also discussed in this particular chapter. For instance, there are several customer retention strategies. Now, one of the most common ones is to be personalized with your messages, more customized. How do we do that? Now, Facebook and Google do that by creating your user profiles based on the fact that they convince you to have an account. Once you create an account, they start keeping a track of what you like and do not like. In the case of Facebook, this is done through EdgeRank. In the case of Google, this is done through the PageRank, as well as your cookie information. Over time, they are able to build a better understanding of what things interest you. The same is done on Amazon. The same can be said about Alibaba and AliExpress, as well as Barnes & Noble and several other websites. All of these have been accessing the cookies, which are those temporary storage information that is stored on your computer. Once they have all of that, they are able to improve their websites to show you content and stuff that is more personalized to you, that feels as if it's meant for you. So when you open up Amazon's webpage and you search for a few products, you close it and you open it up after a few days, you will notice that the Amazon page now shows you products of your interest, products that are similar to what you liked, products that were similar to what other customers similar to you liked. That's exactly what they say on those pages. The same is true for Google search. When you make a search on Google search, after making a few searches, or even if you're signed into Google or Chrome or even Google search page, you will notice that it gives you results based on things that you enjoy and like. The same is true for the news feed on Facebook as well. So this allows these various marketing platforms to do what is known as behavioral targeting, or in other words, interest-based advertising, which is where they end up showing ads that are interesting to you. In Google's case, you can actually go and see what Google has actually understood is interesting to you. You can go to my account, Google My Account. You just go and Google about it, Google My Account. It's accounts.google.com, and in their personalization section, in their advertising section of your account settings, you can actually see the kind of things that Google has tagged you to be interested in. You can actually modify them, and you can tell Google what you're interested in and what you're not interested in, so that you end up seeing ads that are interesting to you. Something of note right here is another organization called Ad Choice. Ad Choice is an internet advertising platform that is actually focusing more on interest-based advertising, and a lot of companies have already part of it. It's like an association or an alliance of different advertisers. Google's part of it, Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, all the major big shots are a part of it. Even Amazon, all are a part of it. So what you notice the ads by Ad Choice, where you'll notice this small blue or a green colored icon right at the upper right corners of different ads. When you click on it, it'll ask you whether you like the ad or not. If you didn't, you can actually tell it why you didn't like it. So this is an interest-based advertising methodology through Ad Choice, and they have their own entire website that you should definitely go through in order to understand the system. Another methodology is retargeting. Retargeting again is done through cookies. What happens is you end up looking at particular products or particular pages, and you end up going on some other website, and what happens is it ends up showing you the ads of the product that you looked at the previous website. This is most commonly seen when you go to Amazon and do some window shopping and end up on Facebook, and the products that you just looked at on Amazon ends up being an ad on Facebook. This is also true for several other websites, such as in the case of Daraz PK's ads on various other websites after you've looked at a few products. This is called retargeting or remarketing, where you actually end up seeing ads of things that you showed some interest in. Once again, this is done through cookies. By gaining access to the information stored on your computer about your clickstream behavior, your online behavior, that is, they are able to show you better ads. Now, the chance of you actually ending up clicking on an ad that that is related to products that you looked at is a lot higher than ads that are unrelated. So this is again most commonly used on Google search and on various display networks of Google's platform. Anyways, then there is customization and customer co-production. Now, customization or mass customization, we've talked about it when we were talking about business models, is a process through which a customer is able to create their own product. Now, mass customization or true customization cannot fully be done, because that would require everything to be changeable or choosable by the customer, and that would increase the cost exponentially. So what happens is that organizations and websites and services have started to have something of a middle. Instead of having mass market, which is basically making one type or a few types of products for the entire market, and on the other extreme is of course completely customized products, we have what is referred to as mass customization, where you end up choosing different options at each stage of the creation of a product. Now, this necessarily does not have to be a physical product. It could even be a digital product or something that is not tangible. It could be software, it could be the way that a website feels or looks to you, or the content that a website shows to you. So think of it this way: every person on the planet who accesses and uses YouTube and Facebook actually sees a very unique version of those websites that is unique to them. That's because all of these websites are personalized and customized according to their interests. The same thing happens for different other products and different companies that have come up with the concept of customer co-production, where you actually end up creating a product or a service by giving information about what you like and do not like. This is very similar to the concept of personalization and interest-based advertising that I just talked about a while ago, but it is also true for different products. For instance, mass customization can be seen in the physical realm, where you've seen it at Subway, where you actually end up choosing your own sandwich and designing it. The same is true for how Dell Computers handled its online platform, where you actually end up choosing your own computer and designing it, so to speak, or assembling it by your choices. Other areas of marketing include frequently asked question platforms, where there are some questions that are already asked in order to facilitate a customer. This is all very common on retail websites as well as on different service-related websites. Real-time customer chatting services are of two types, where you can do a real-time chat with an actual human being on the other end, but that is becoming less and less common. These days, there are a lot of chatting bots or computers on the other end, like artificial intelligent assistants that respond to your question. This is common on Facebook pages, this is common on Amazon, this is common on several other websites, where you can send queries and actually do a sort of an instant messaging or chatting with a computer on the other end, an artificial intelligent bot or software that responds to your questions with relation to different products. This is also common in the case of automated response systems that work similarly to how you get automated responses on a phone, where you press 1 for a particular option or press 2 for another option. It can also work for several other categories. Now, then we come to page 381. It talks about pricing strategy. Now, most of the topics in this particular portion of this chapter are more related to the auctions pages, topics that are covered in other chapters. However, I'll still cover them here in order to make a complete discussion of this entire chapter. So, pricing strategies. In the first chapter, we talked about the fact that e-commerce was said to be able to make pricing a non-issue because all information about pricing would be easily available to all consumers and customers, which would mean that no website could actually charge you more. So the idea would be that there would be a single kind of price for every product, a law of one price, so to speak. However, that does not actually happen in the real world. The demand and supply curve and the fact that a lot of websites offer several other benefits, they therefore charge more for a particular product, and that's why this doesn't really happen. So there's a form of a price discrimination that happens because different groups are willing to pay a different amount for the same kind of product, which is why this discrimination happens. So there are several possible methodologies through which pricing can be done. One of them is the free or the freemium model. The word free or freemium basically refers to the idea that the product itself or the service itself would be free, but you will be paying with your information, so to speak, and will be ended up seeing advertisements. Freemium comes from the word premium and free being combined together. Freemium services are those where the actual basic service or product is actually free, but in order to get rid of the ads, you pay a certain amount or you purchase that particular service in order for it to be ad free. Then it becomes the premium service. That's a very commonly used methodology. Another methodology of pricing is versioning. In other words, there are several versions of the same kind of product. For instance, you will find a lot of software that's free of cost if you're using it personally or if you're using it for educational purposes. However, you will be charged if you're using it for commercial purposes in order to generate money. There are several such examples of products, especially in the case of software. For instance, different versions of Windows, different versions of Mac OS, different versions of Linux operating systems that are designed for business use or for personal use. Then there is another concept of bundling, where a particular product can come along with another product at a reduced price if you buy them together. This is often common on retail stores. In the case of books, in Amazon, where you buy, let's say if you buy a single book of a particular series, it may cost you $10, but if you buy all three, it may cost you around $25, saving you about $5. This is basically called bundling or combining two products. Then there is the concept of dynamic pricing or flash marketing. Dynamic pricing is when the pricing changes based on how many products you're actually buying. In other words, the fluctuation in the price based on the demand or based on the number of items that you're buying. Flash marketing is another technique which is similar to this. Now, in the case of dynamic pricing, it is based on the product and the customer and the supply that the seller has. So this is often the case for computers. You'll often find a lot of sales happening in different holiday periods. Another area that dynamic pricing covers is auctions, which will be something that we'll be discussing later on. So auctions are a very common way where the prices change based on how much people are willing to pay for it. The same thing is also true in yield management. Yield management is basically when the prices are set differently for different segments and different markets, and it's often the case where airlines, for instance, are going to be charging you they change the pricing of the seats available on a particular flight if, say for instance, the flight is about to leave, or if the tickets are not taken up. So that is also the case. The reverse could also be true, where if the product is perishable, the prices may drop, or the prices may rise if the product has a decrease in supply. Similar to this is the concept of basically charging you according to how much you buy. So if, for instance, there are several buyers who are together willing to buy a particular product, there would be more discounts available on different retail stores. There are several businesses that actually do something similar. There is another third concept of dynamic pricing, which is referred to as flash marketing. I missed out on surge pricing first, which is the second kind. So yield management is the first kind of dynamic pricing, where the prices change based on how much people actually want it, with seasonal variations and stuff. The second type is surge pricing, which is common, say for instance, when we actually use Uber or Khurram, where it actually gives us peak factor because of the availability of a particular thing. So based on the conditions of the market at that point in time and the willingness of people to buy a particular thing, the prices may increase or decrease based on the supply and demand. The third dynamic pricing strategy or technique is flash marketing, where a particular product is sold at a specific time with very low rates in order to gain more sales, and then in order to get rid of the stock. So this actually increases the chance of people buying it, because it creates a certain environment of excitement, of eagerness to buy, and basically a sort of an artificial limitation of the stock. And one of the most common examples of flash marketing is those done by Xiaomi, which is a Chinese mobile and smartphone manufacturing company that often does its flash sales through Flipkart in India and several other online retailers. Then there is long tail marketing. Now, long tail marketing is essentially the methodology that Amazon uses. So what Amazon does is actually makes certain that the products that are not selling very commonly on their own stores directly from them, they end up referring it to other sellers. So all of those examples where a particular product is not selling as frequently, these products are then sold by other sellers through Amazon instead of actually losing out on consumers. This is done through them. Now, this has already been discussed in the Amazon case bundle, and I highly recommend that you listen to it there. Then moving to section 6.3, the internet marketing technologies, we have several different technologies that actually use this. So the revolution in internet marketing technologies has happened because of all those 6 or 7 different advantages of e-commerce themselves, which is ubiquity, which is the availability of e-commerce everywhere, and therefore online advertising and marketing everywhere. The fact that it has global reach, which means that it can reach millions, practically billions of people across the globe. It has similar standards because of places like Internet Advertising Bureau and various other associations and alliances. It has a richness because it can have images and videos and even interactive ads. There's a lot of interactivity, as it is being talked about, where consumers can actually give their opinions, their feedbacks. There's a lot of information about every single thing. There's a lot of personalization, customization, because users end up seeing ads that are interesting to them by actually doing what they usually do online. And then there's a lot of social technology that helps all of this because of social networks. So all of these 6 or 7 advantages of e-commerce can easily be translated into the online advertising industry. So then there's a topic about web transaction logs. Web transaction logs are basically the activity, user activity on different websites. This can be done every single time you actually end up on a website. The information about how long you spent time on each of the pages is tracked. All of this is tracked through various platforms. One of the most common ones is Google Analytics, which actually keeps track of, which is basically another service that Google has that website owners can use on their websites in order to keep a track of how people are using the website. Amazon has its own inbuilt in-house system that does something similar. So it keeps a track of how people are spending their time on their websites, what they've added to their cart, what they dropped out, how long they spent on a particular page, how long they viewed a particular video. All of this is related to consumer analytics, or also referred to as web analytics, which is extremely useful and crucial for understanding online consumer behavior. So all of these are related to those particular tools. And then it talks about cookies, which I've already discussed in detail. Moving on, it talks about how a lot of cross-device tracking has now become very common. Cross-device tracking is something that is very important these days, because a lot of people actually end up using several devices. For instance, we have several tablets or laptops or desktops, and we keep on switching from one to the other. We might be searching for something on a mobile phone a minute ago, and then we switch to a desktop. This is exactly why various services such as Google and Facebook and even Amazon are trying to convince us to create our accounts in order to synchronize our behavior on all of them, in order to keep track on all different devices. This is exactly why I keep saying that Google and Facebook and all of these services are actually trying to give us a whole platform, a whole ecosystem of different services and products in order to understand us better. So when I say that Google actually creates all of its products like services, and all of those products are designed for a single purpose, that is to understand the consumer and customer better in order to give them better ads, in order to give them better searches. So this is exactly what I mean. So this is how all of these companies are doing it. Apple's doing the same thing. Amazon's doing the same thing. Every single tech giant these days even Microsoft, is trying to create a whole platform, a whole ecosystem of different products and services that are interconnected with each other. Be it Amazon's Kindle platform, their Audible, their ebooks, all of it are interconnected. The entire thing, in order to truly enjoy it, you need to have an Amazon ID, an Amazon account, and then it becomes an extremely good experience. The same is true for Google. Once you have a Google ID, you probably are going to end up getting an Android device. You're going to use Google Chrome. You're going to be using Google Maps. You're going to use Google Photos, and all of this is going to help them track you and understand you better. Remember that all of this is happening by the user's permission, and in the case where you are being tracked without your permission, you can, of course, that is a situation that is going to be looked at from a legal standpoint. That is not good, obviously. Moving on, it talks about databases, data warehouse, data mining, and big data. All of these terms are related to each other in the sense that databases are practically how data is stored in an organized manner so as to be able to retrieve it and search it and organize it. All of these social networks and bank accounts and all these structured forms of organizations of data are kept in databases. Softwares that run, that manage, that allow you to search and organize this data are referred to as database management software. The language which is used to ask questions from these databases is called structured query language, or SQL or SQL. And obviously there are various kinds of databases. The most common ones that are used for transactional purpose, in other words, to keep record of daily activities and buys and purchase, are relational databases. However, databases that contain historical information that is kept for archive purposes, that is kept to keep history of a particular firm's transactions, are referred to as data warehouses. One of the most key factors these days that people are researching about or talking about is data mining, which is the process of going through all of that historical data in order to find patterns and correlations and associations between pieces of information. The field that deals with it these days is data mining and big data analysis. Big data is a term that has been coined to refer to the huge amount of data that is generated by different user interactions with different platforms and different Web 2.0 technologies these days. A lot of data is generated every day, and I've talked about it in another audio recording. You could go and search about data never sleeps, which actually is an infographic, an image that tells you what happens in a single internet minute. The amount of data we generate in a single minute is huge, and all of this information can be searched and data mined, which is basically a process, a statistical process through which we can find correlations and associations between pieces of information in order to better understand our consumers and our customers' behaviors online. All of this then ties into customer relationship management or CRM tools that I already talked about. These tools keep data about customers, about their interests, about how that can be used to target more customers to them. This is basically the know your customer thing. This has become more common and more easy to do and more powerful as we've moved to the digital things, because this used to be done physically, but now that we know that our consumer is almost constantly related to our stuff, constantly connecting to us, whether it be online, whether it be through social networks, this is now easier. So one of the most famous CRMs that we know of today is Salesforce.com, which is an online-based CRM solution. So there's this figure on page 399, figure 6.10, which talks about how customer relationship management software actually works. So we've got several customer touch points or places where customers interact with us. There's telephones, there's the Salesforce talking to us directly, the website, going to the physical store, social networks, the mall, the mails that we receive, all of the places where we interact with the various firms. All of this information that they collect from us, from the various transactions we make, are put together, are cleaned and uploaded into historical databases of these CRM systems, which is then used to target us all over again. So this is becoming extremely useful these days in order to understand customers even better. Moving on to section 6.4, it talks about various definitions which are extremely important to understand with relation to online marketing. Now, these terms are already discussed and have been used multiple times in case bundle number 2 and in various other parts of my discussion of this chapter, but I'll go through them again. This is on page 401. So impressions. Impression actually comes from the word pressing or press, which is basically printing of ads. So it comes from the print industry or from the print media industry. Impression means the number of times that the ad is actually shown. Click-through rate, as I mentioned earlier, is the percentage of the number of times that the ad was shown being divided by the number of times it was actually clicked by a particular user. The click-through rate, in other words, for instance, if an ad was shown about 1,000 times and somebody clicked on it about say 100 times, then the click-through rate would be 10%. This is how click-through rate actually works. View-through rate is going to be calculated in 30 days, where when an ad was actually shown, and somebody actually clicked on the ad, went to the website and did a particular thing. That's view through rate, where you actually ended up on the website. Hits is another term that's often used. Hits means the number of times that a page was visited. Now hits are different from the unique page views or unique visitors. Hits are a total count. So for instance, if I refresh a page 5 times, this will be counted as 5 hits, not as one unique visit. Page views is the number of pages visited by a particular visitor on a website. When you go to a website, the number of times you open up a page or multiple pages is referred to as the number of times a page was viewed. Viewability rate is the percentage of the ads that are actually seen by people in general. Unique visitors or unique views are different from hits. So if I end up opening up a page and if I refresh it 5 times, it will still be considered as one unique visit or one unique view. Loyalty is basically pretty simple to understand. The number of times that the same person returns as a customer as opposed to a new customer. Reach is the number of consumers that actually got our particular ad and ended up seeing particular marketing material that we ended up showing. Recency is basically the number of times or the number of days that have passed since the last time you visited a page, or the average number of times that you ended up being on the page again. So stickiness, this is an extremely useful metric to measure how interesting your ad was or your video was. Stickiness means the average amount of time a particular person stays on a website. So if somebody visits a website and immediately leaves, that is referred to as the bounce rate. That is when people actually come to a website and leave immediately, as opposed to the stickiness, which is basically the number of minutes or even or any length of time that they stayed on a website. Acquisition rate is different from click-through rate. Acquisition rate means the number of percentage of users or per people who ended up clicking on an ad and actually coming to a website and performing some function which is translated as a conversion or an acquisition, which means that they became your customer. That could be registering through a form, that could be downloading something, that could even be making a purchase. So the acquisition rate and conversion rate are similar in the sense that acquisition rate is a general term used for making any actions on your page that you consider important from the perspective of that person becoming or that user becoming a possible lead. While conversion rate is something specific to a retail store, where it is the rate of the people visiting your website, and out of those, the number of people who end up actually buying from you. So for instance, 100 people visited your website, but only 10 of them ended up buying something from you. So your conversion rate would be 10%. This is how it works. So this is also summarized in table 6.7, and I would highly recommend that you would go through that particular table as well for a better summary. So as I said, table 6.7 actually contains a brief review and single statements of all of these different metrics with relation to the websites and with relation to several video advertising metrics and even email metrics. So you should definitely go through all of these in order to understand these different variables and metrics that are used about online. Moving on, we've already talked about reach, recency, acquisition rate and stuff. I'll go on and say browse to buy ratio. Pretty self-explanatory, which is the ratio of how many people actually just do window shopping as opposed to those that end up buying. So the browse to buy ratio is that. View to cart ratio, those who end up looking at a particular product and with comparison to how many of them actually end up adding them to their cart. The cart conversion rate is how many people actually click on actual orders after clicking on add to cart clicks. So how many of them actually add the stuff to their carts, and that's a step for the conversions. Checkout conversion rate, which is actually people who make the actual checkout. So even if you've added something to your cart, does not necessarily mean you've actually bought it. There's another step after that. We've discussed this concept during the Amazon case audio recording as well. Abandonment rate, the percentage of shoppers that actually add stuff to their carts but never do the actual checkout and close the windows and leave the website. Retention rate, how many customers continue to buy or have buy from you again. Attrition rate, the number of customers who just purchased once but never returned back. In other words, those customers who did not reorder. Let's say you've got 100 customers in a year and only 50 of them came back to buy again from you. That's a 50% attrition rate right there. View time, the amount of time that we spent watching a video, which is also related to the stickiness of the video, the duration that you watched it. So all of these YouTube recordings, I know how many students end up actually watching them and for how long, because I can see those statistics in YouTube Analytics, which is YouTube's version of analyzing different videos. Completion rate, how many video viewers actually watched an entire video ad. Open rate, the percentage of customers who actually open up a particular email. Delivery rate, the percentage of people who actually receive a particular marketing related email. Click-through rate through email, or the number of times that people actually receive a link in their emails and actually click on it and end up on a website. Bounce back rate, the percentage of times that a person was emailed a marketing message but the email bounced back because it never reached the person. All of these are various metrics that you should know about. Figure 6.11 actually shows a very brilliant picture. It's a funnel. If you look at it from the sideways, it appears very clearly like a funnel. So on the first stage, the awareness or need recognition stage, that is the first stage of a particular consumer's journey. So it gives an example. There could be several ways in which you are being communicated the message: through search engines, through display ads, through emails, through affiliate websites, through social networks, through blogs, through what people say, a lot of places online. So let's say you've got like thousands of impressions and thousands of click searches and thousands of likes and shares on online, and then people end up, after being exposed to all of that, they end up searching. Some of them end up searching, so less than 1,000 people would end up probably searching. Then they end up on a website, then they do a lot of page views, they look at different websites, they evaluate those websites, and then eventually a very small percentage of the people who end up on a website actually start making the real conversions. They actually become real customers, they actually buy. So you end up with a very small number of people out of those thousands and millions of people that were exposed to the marketing. There are very few people who actually end up buying. So even a 5% rate of actual conversion is a hugely high number. It's a good number. So just 5 people out of 100 who are exposed to your marketing message end up buying. That's good. So, and out of those, even if 25% of those 5, which means about 2.5 on an average, if they come back and buy a second time and show post-purchase behavior, that is a good achievement. That's actual loyalty happening right there. Cross-platform attribution, is something where people are going to end up being influenced by a customer, being influenced by a marketing message because something that they saw elsewhere. So Table 6.8 talks about how many times a particular type of ad method or marketing method is shown and how many times it actually gets clicked. For instance, banner ads are in general clicked by 0.03% to 0.25% on an average. Google enhanced search ads or product listing ads, which are basically also called Google shopping ads, which are not presented in Pakistan, they're not available in Pakistan, are about 2.8% or 3.6%. Google's ad results, or ad search marketing or search engine marketing is about 1.35 to 3.4%. Video ads are 0.34%. So you'll notice that there's a whole statistics that shows how many times an ad is clicked, and these are industry averages. So this is a good example of how much they are clicked on. So the cost of online advertising is the next topic, and it talks about 3 different costing structures. I've talked about these multiple times earlier. Now let's look at them in detail. Now the most common methodology is cost per mile, or cost per mile here is not a distance. M here is a Latin word for representing 1,000. So cost per mile is a costing structure that advertisers and publishers agree upon. Let's say Google and an advertiser agree upon that Google will end up charging you for 1,000 times that your ad ends up being seen by people. Now remember, seen here does not mean that actually being seen by their eyes. In other words, it's 1,000 times that your ad is going to be impressed upon or printed or shown on a web page or a website. So after it's shown about 1,000 times, probably to 1,000 different users, you will be liable to pay. The most common and the cheapest method is the CPM method. So if you talk about the pros of the CPM method, the CPM method's pro is that this is the cheapest method. However, the greatest con or the greatest weakness of the system is there is no guarantee that your ad is actually going to be eyeballed or seen with the person's eyes. Think of it like printed ads in newspapers. There are several thousands of ads in different newspapers every day, but that does not mean that if a person has read an entire newspaper or if they buy a newspaper, they actually read every single ad. So there's no guarantee. This is the disadvantage of the CPM. The second methodology, which is the one that Google uses most commonly, is the CPC methodology, or cost per click, where an advertiser ends up paying for every time a user ends up clicking on an ad. So this methodology is more probably better in the sense that only people who are interested in your ad or are engaged by your ad will end up clicking, and hence you'll only be liable to pay when somebody clicks on your ad. Remember that there are no clicks being evaluated in a CPM based ad or a cost per impressions or cost per thousand wala system of ads. There is no clicking involved. A lot of students make that mistake. They think of CPM ads as being clicked. Understand that does not mean that an ad that is being costed based on CPM method cannot be clicked. It can be, but you have already, the advertiser already has to pay for the ad because it was shown. If a user ends up clicking on it, there's no extra payment. But in the case of CPC, just by looking at the ad, the advertiser is not going to be charged. The advertiser will only be charged when the user clicks on the ad. So that's an advantage of the CPC method. The disadvantage of the CPC method, a possible disadvantage of the CPC method, is a possibility of click fraud that we already talked about, where a rival advertiser or a rival company can pay someone to click on your ads in order to destroy your budget, or the website on which your ad is being shown could hire someone to click on the ads in order to generate more revenue. However, Google and various other advertising platforms have various tools and algorithms in place in order to prevent that. The third method is cost per action, or as Google likes to call it, cost per acquisition. This is a methodology where a user will first click on your ad, end up on a website, and the advertiser will only pay once that user takes a certain number of actions or does something on your website. It could be downloading a document, it could be watching a video, it could be actually adding something to their cart and actually making a purchase. Cost per acquisition or cost per action is the most expensive of all. However, the advantage of CPA method or the cost per conversion method or the cost per acquisition method is that it will only be charging you when and if only a particular customer becomes a converted customer or becomes an actual buyer from you. So it is expensive, but you're only charged when they take certain action. So even if somebody sees a CPA based ad or actually clicks on that ad, the advertiser does not have to pay until and unless that user does a certain actions. How are they actually gauging? How is Google going to know whether the user has taken those actions? This is done through Google Analytics. Basically, Google Analytics provides that advertising website, where the particular action is supposed to be shown, the landing page. You're going to go and place some programming code, a JavaScript piece of code on the website. So every time somebody takes those actions, that piece of code is triggered, it is switched on, and information is sent to Google servers, which keep tracks of how many customers actually became real customers, and then it charges accordingly to the advertiser. So these are three of the methods. There's also cost per lead, where the advertiser only pays when a particular qualified lead happens, and this is similar to CPA in the sense you register through a form, or you show more interest, you make a sort of a pre-booking of sorts in a manner. So these are some different pricing models that people pay for. Then there's a hybrid where different models are used together, and there's also sponsorship where a fixed amount is paid for a slot of an ad. Remember that I talked about masthead ads? Masthead ads are ads that are shown on the YouTube's main page, in which case there's no bidding involved, and you actually pay to Google for an entire day's worth of ads being shown on the very first page of YouTube to everyone. The costs of these ads are tremendously high. We're talking about $800,000 per day for youtube.com, and it's very, very high even in Pakistan. And understand that an entire year's worth of showing those ads, those masthead ads, is already pre-booked in Google's case. For instance, 2018, every single day's masthead ads on YouTube's main page have already been booked for. So that is how important various websites see those ads to be. Then there's of course the comparison of prices between traditional and online advertising costs. Understand that on local television the prices are very, very high even for a few seconds worth of ads, and this can be seen in table 6.10, while online ads are extremely cheap in comparison. Not only that, one of the reasons that people prefer online ads is because, well, our generation does not watch television anymore. We switch channels, while online the ads are exposed to you based on your interest, and they're shown to you in between your media that is going to be more interesting to you. Plus, those ads are more personalized and specific to you, while on TV those ads are mass marketed. So this is also one of the reasons that online advertising is more focused. Plus, the measurement of online advertisements effectiveness is a lot easier as opposed to physical advertisement. For instance, you cannot know whether a particular billboard convinced a person, while you can actually know whether a particular banner ad convinced a person to buy based on their cookies and based on their online behavior after they saw that particular ad. So the measurement of these ads, the analytics portion, makes online advertising and marketing superior to physical marketing in this case. So if you look at figure 6.12 and you look at the next section which talks about precisely this, the awareness level and the engagement and interaction and purchase and post purchase. All of this is calculated and can be evaluated based on these marketing analytics software. For instance, unique visitors, when they end up on your website, you know who they are. Those are new people because of their behavior, their cookie information, the amount of time they spend watching your videos, the amount of time they spend on your web pages, the number of pages they open up to tell you how engaged they are, how many times they skip back from a page tells you that they didn't find it interesting, called the bounce rate, or how long they stayed on your page will be told through their stickiness, the duration they spend on that page. Similarly, the interaction, the engagement that they show through different likes and shares of different posts tells you the same thing. The purchase behavior tells you how interested they really became, how many of them became real leads into your particular product. The same thing can be seen with how many times they ended up coming back, or in other words, so that you can remarket to them, so that you can show interest to them again, because they are your loyal customers and they've shown that by coming back to your website. So all of these marketing analytics software, of which one of the most famous ones is Google Analytics. This is another one called Magento, and there are several other analytics. For instance, Adobe, IBM's Digital Analytics, Web Trends Marketing Analytics. There are several that actually do all of this. So this is essentially the end of this chapter, and I hope that you're able to understand the various concepts of marketing and advertising online through this. If you're truly interested in this kind of stuff, there is an elective offered at our university called Digital Marketing, which focuses on this, and several electives related to this. But this particular chapter, now you would understand why this chapter is linked with case bundle number 2, because that's what case bundle number 2 talks about online marketing and advertising. I hope this was useful for you. Thank you.